All right, it is 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call the meeting of April 19th, 2023 of the Development Review Board to order. I first have chair's remarks, and then I'm going to swear in anybody who is planning to speak. At the DRB, we hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro and appeals of zoning administrator decisions. Procedurally, the Development Review Board operates on the record. Broadly, this means we take a clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties, and then issue a written decision with our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that as we are on the record, this is your only opportunity to comment on and provide evidence relating to an application. Application material and written testimony is posted to the town website as received. Hearings may be continued at the board's discretion if materially important documents are received after the submission deadline. In the event our decision is appealed to the environmental court, the court will not take or consider additional testimony at its hearing, but will look at the evidence from our hearings, the regulations, and determine if the evidence supports the findings and decisions of this board. Only interested persons that participate in this proceeding may appeal a decision made by the board, so I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at this hearing. As we are on the record, we are going to ask that you affirm that your testimony will be truthful. So the applicant and anyone wishing to speak to an application, please, if you guys, you're presenting, right? Both of you?
I'm an abutter.
Well, if you're going to say something, you should say. And anybody who is going to present, Mr. Lynch, please, you can unmute yourself if you're on Zoom, please, if you're going to speak at all. Okay.
Yes, I will be speaking.
Okay. So would the applicants and anyone wishing to speak to an application, please affirm the following. I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalty of perjury. Please say I do.
I do.
I do.
Thank you. If you're on Zoom, you can mute yourself until your presentation. Applicants require a majority vote of the full board to succeed. That's 4 votes out of 7. If we do not have a full board present to hear your application, then we will consider a request to consider your application to the next public meeting. Just for the record, we have 1 member on Zoom and, I can't count,
6 total.
5 people here, so we have 6 members present. After taking the testimony, the board will close the public hearing and may vote on your application. The board will issue a written decision within 45 days of the close of the hearing. While we may vote on an application, it is the written decision that controls the timeline for appeal. It should be noted that the town of Brattleboro is a party with an interest in land development applications. The town does not have a special status before this board. Documents provided to the board by the town planning department, town attorney, or other town departments will be considered in exactly the same way as information from the applicant and all other interested parties. Okay. And I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 5th meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the February 15th meeting. And I'm going to call the roll.
February 15th?
I mean,
March 5th.
March 5th. I'm reading old
I
minutes.
know,
Let's see, it says right there, February 15th.
that's right.
Okay. So I am,
No, excuse me, April
April
5th.
2nd.
Would be.
April 5th.
April 5th.
Yeah, the last meeting was April 5th.
That's what I'd like to make the motion to approve.
Okay,
Do you want to amend that?
no. So, can I have, I'm gonna call the roll since. Catherine, were you weren't at the meeting, were you?
No, but I read the minutes online.
Can she
Does
vote
that
for
count?
them if she's not here?
Yep.
Okay. How are you voting?
Yes.
Nora? Yes. Michael?
Yes.
Gary?
Aye.
In
Tom?
favor.
And I will vote aye. So the minutes of April 5th, 2023 are approved by a vote of 6-0. Okay. All interested parties took the oath. Brian, was the meeting properly warned?
Yes, it was.
Does anybody have any conflicts of interest or had any ex parte communications? Tom, I'm going to point you to hear all three.
Okay.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is 2023-15, Town of Brattleboro Institutional District request for flood hazard conditional use approval to construct a wastewater pump station at 255 Linden Street. Who is going to present?
I'd like to start if I could.
Yes.
And then I'll turn it over to Michael.
Please tell us about the project.
Hi, folks. I'm Peter Lynch. I'm here representing the Department of Public Works. And ordinarily, you would be meeting with Dan Tyler, but on this very special occasion where he's just had a baby, he won't be able to be with us this evening. So I'm here with Michael Maynor, and Michael is a project engineer for Aldrich and Elliott. And those folks are going to manage this project for us. And before I turn it over to Michael, I'd like to explain that we are replacing an existing pump station, wastewater pump station that's very old and has aged, is in the process of aging out, and certainly has reached its limits. And we're here today to ask you to allow us to replace it more or less in the same location, although at a different elevation. So with no further ado, I'd like to turn over the microphone to Mike Maynor, who has very intimate details of the project and is happy to share them with you. Thank you.
Yeah, hello everyone. Yes, this is Mike Maynor. I'm from Aldrich and Elliott. We're the engineering firm that's been working with the town on this project. The project in a nutshell, there's an existing wastewater pump station. It's off of Linden Street. As you're heading out of town, it's on the right, sort of down at the bottom of a fairly steep bank. It was built about 1969. It's what we call a dry pit pump station. It's antiquated.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? Can you turn the screen so that those of us sitting here can see better? Thank you. It doesn't have to be quite that much. That's good. Thank you. Sorry, Michael.
Yeah, no problem. So it's basically, it's an antiquated type of pump station. The equipment in there is old and needs to be replaced. One of the big drivers here, it's the dry pit's no longer dry. It has water in it that damages all the electrical equipment in it. And then any work on the pumps requires that the operators go down into the dry pit. The ladder's in poor condition. It's technically a confined space. So this is why these types of pump stations aren't used anymore. If you look at the plans, you can see in the dark colored circles, those are the new structures. The old pump station is just left of those. They're the two white circles. The new pump station is what we call a package vacuum prime pump station. So it's much simpler. The pumps are mounted up near the surface, so the operators don't have to go down into anything to check on things or repair them. The reason this is going through the DRB process is because it's located in a floodplain, and certainly nowadays we try not to locate things in floodplains. Back in 1969 they didn't really think about that, and at this point we really have no choice but to replace put the new pump station very close to the existing pump station, because that's the low point in the sewer collection system. Again, today we'd be trying to avoid this, but just based on the sort of the cards that were dealt with, how this was all built back 50 years ago, that's why we're building it where we're building it. If you look on sheet 3, you'll see we've set the top of the wet well elevation at 232 feet. That is the 100-year flood elevation. The regional standards for wastewater facilities in the Northeast require that the pump stations be operable up to the 100-year flood elevation. So, if you had a flood like that, the water would come, right up there to the top of the structure. The standby generator might need to switch on, but all the other stuff, all the electrical equipment, all the motors, all of that stuff, that's all located at least a foot higher than that 100-year base flood elevation. If you look over at the site plan, there's a little bit of regrading that's going on. The pump station's currently built on a earth pad. It was actually originally built even lower, and then at some point in the past 20 or 30 years, that earthen pad around it was built to help protect it from flooding. Part of this project, that pad is going to get sort of pushed up so that you have a surface. It's going to be about 231 feet, 231.5 feet around the pump station. So even though there's some regrading going on, there isn't really any additional fill material being placed under the base flood elevation, and we're actually kind of pulling that area of fill up back, sort of against the hillside. And then there's a couple other little parts of this. We have to replace a couple manholes just to get the flow into where it needs to go. We have to go intercept the existing force main. There'll be some electrical improvements and a new fence and a new just some of the standard site work as well. I think that's a pretty good overview. I don't know if anyone has questions. I'm happy to answer or wants to discuss this anymore.
Anybody on the board have questions? Michael?
No, I looked through it. It looks like you've done a nice job of it.
Tom?
Are there any fuel tanks, fuel storage tanks?
Yeah, so there's a standby generator that's going to be installed. So that's got what we call a belly tank. So that's where the base of the generator is actually the fuel tank. The generator is going to be mounted to a concrete pad. So there isn't really any way that it would move, and the fill and vent ports on the fuel tank are going to be at least a foot above that 232 foot line.
And the fuel tank will be secured too?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all part of the generator package. It's going to be bolted to a concrete pad. Yep.
Okay.
And I guess my question, how long, I guess, once this, the switch over takes, how long is the disruption of service of the flow?
Yeah, so one reason we're building the pump station right next to the old pump station and not right exactly where the existing pump station is so that that existing pump station can operate during construction.
Okay.
So there, from the perspective of users up in that Linden Street area, they wouldn't notice any disruption in flow.
Is there any pavement within the BFE or flood hazard area?
Yeah, so we are replacing the, there's a little truck turnaround, or sort of driveway that runs down to the pump station. We've got that on, it's on sheet 3. So that'll be pretty close to the base flood elevation, maybe a few inches below it. It's basically kind of mimicking the existing pavement though, so it doesn't really, it's new, but it's not really creating new impervious.
Question for my fellow board members, is that something that the regs advise to be impervious?
It's okay so long as it's in the flood fringe, or in the floodway, that
Yeah.
would be.
There's so many flood terms I still haven't memorized
That's
it
all
all
right,
perfectly.
everybody does,
Okay.
Yeah, I used to work with these maps when I was in Boston, and I still don't know all the
Floodway, flood
terminology.
fringe, BFE, SFHA, yeah.
Yeah, just to jump in really quickly. So the floodway is the area where there are rapid flows and it contains the 100-year
Yeah.
flood. BFE is base flood elevation. It's the expected flood level for a 100-year storm or a storm with a 1% chance of occurring any year.
It sounds like those match up.
Yes, they do.
That's the same, okay,
Yeah.
just another way of saying the same thing.
And this is being located outside of that 100-year flood, according to,
Right at,
right at, yeah.
the top of it is right at the 100-year flood plain.
Yeah. The top will be located outside of the,
It's at that
Let's add
elevation.
it.
yeah. So, you said in your application materials that you're gonna leave the landscaping as is. Are you gonna be disturbing any of the vegetation that's around the current pump station? And,
No. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah, most of the trees should be able to remain in place. We're keeping things pretty much on top of sort of that existing earthen pad, so that they may have to remove a little bit of brush or something, but there's not much clearing that has to happen.
Any other questions from members of the board? Nora?
Nope.
Catherine?
No,
Gary? Anything? Michael?
No, so,
Well, my question is, we have this wording that for utilities that they should be located outside of the special flood hazard area to the greatest extent feasible. But were you saying that we're just kind of stuck with where it is?
Yeah.
And if you were to, not even just move it to a whole different location, but just to raise it up in height, and maybe that would be, I mean, would it be cost prohibitive to raise it up in height a couple more feet? Or?
So we've raised it so it's just over the top of the base flood elevation.
Okay.
So it's located vertically out of the floodplain. We don't just, like you said, it just sort of has to be where it has to be as far as the horizontal location, which is in the floodplain, and
Oh, okay.
just.
Oh, yeah, my mistake.
How big
I thought I read something saying that there's parts that are below that level, but they're water resistant, and but water won't get to them unless it surpasses the height, because it has to get to
That's
that level.
correct.
It won't
I believe
infiltrate from the
FEMA
sides.
Yeah, the
Or will
FEMA rules require flood proofing to 1 foot over the base flood elevation. And so, yeah, anything that's below 233, less than 1 foot over the base flood elevation, is basically a immersible component.
But then the sides of the raised platform, are the sides waterproof?
Yes, everything that structure is a watertight structure. That's correct.
That's,
Okay.
they said that in the materials. Any other questions? Are there any comments from members of the public? No?
Just
Inviting
one
TV.
question. Did you guys survey off of valid markers? Some of the ones in the area are flawed.
Sorry, I didn't hear you there.
Sure. So in the past, there's been trouble surveying in that area because some of the markers are flawed and have subsided.
No, I believe we used a combination of the parcel mapping and a boundary survey that was done back when the pump station was built. So we were able to lay everything out and fix an elevation without any issues.
Okay, great, thanks.
Brian, does that address how on the town's parcel map, there's that weird V in the?
Yeah, we're gonna address that separately. I've asked our company to remap it.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Steve, you have anything? Okay, is there a motion to, approve the flood hazard conditional use to construct a water pump station at 255 Linden Street?
I motion to
I move it.
approve.
Okay, Catherine, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve 2023-15. Is there any further discussion? Okay. We ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay, Catherine,
Aye.
Nora, aye. Michael,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. So the pump station is approved by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. You have a good evening.
You too.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is 2023-21, Tri-Park Cooperative Housing Corporation Residential Neighborhood District, request for flood hazard conditional use approval to replace sewer system at 85 Glen Drive. Who is presenting that? Do we have anybody?
There's no one present to present it.
So,
I would suggest passing it to the end of the agenda, and hopefully
Okay.
somebody will attend.
okay.
Thanks, Brad.
So, moving on, 2023-22, Windham County Humane Society, Rural Residential District, request for site plan and wetlands conditional use approval. Okay,
May I take the table?
that table there, and there's an easel over here, which you'll have to set up so the camera can see it.
Yeah, for you guys to see as well.
Um,
I don't know if you want to bring it out here, probably, so we all.
We will once we set it up. What's this for?
Yeah.
Conditional use approval
Well, we need to, for you guys to see it.
to construct a 2,045 square foot, one-story addition and add 8 parking spaces stormwater treatment and landscaping at 916 West River Road.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I think most of us.
Can you see that?
Can you get that?
Yeah, I can zoom in on that, yep.
I mean, the map's up, I don't know if you wanna pull that up, for us to see on TV then,
Oh, we don't.
yeah.
Thanks for having us. I'm Adam Hubbard, I'm a landscape architect, and I've worked with the Humane Society over the past 5 years, and I'll introduce Maya Richmond. She's the executive director. Maya will start with just giving you a little overview of what the big picture goal is here, and introduce herself.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam. So thank you everyone for having me tonight to go over this exciting project for the Humane Society. Again, before Adam begins to go and walk us through our site plan and development plan, I just want to put on record and testimony about the importance of the project. So it is on record. Really quickly, there it goes. The Humane Society is a 136-year-old community-supported nonprofit animal shelter whose mission is to ensure the well-being of animals and enhance the relationship between individuals and pets through a variety of programs and services offered to our county and community residents. These services include rehoming stray and unwanted animals, reuniting lost pets with their parents, the pet parents, assisting law enforcement on cases of animal cruelty and neglect, offering low-cost or free veterinary services to owned pets, including vaccinations, as well as spay-neuter services to keep them healthy and in their homes. We operate a pet food pantry, which provided over 16,000 pounds of pet food for almost 100 pet owners last year. And then we have a variety of education and advocacy programs. So the organization is small but pretty mighty, in my opinion. Why this project is important to the Humane Society and the animals and people of our community is because the current facility, its mechanical systems are failing, and the actual facility itself does not meet or allow the Humane Society to meet today's standard of care, which is outlined for shelter animals. Right now, the facility has a poor ventilation system, which is incredibly important to stop disease spread within an animal shelter. The surfaces are not easy to clean and disinfect. We want to be able to do that to reduce disease. And a lot of shelters built at this time did not take into consideration the mental health of the animals. So there's really very limited soundproofing, natural light, and it's incredibly stressful based on how it's developed and the layout of the facility. On top of that, there's no veterinary treatment rooms. There's no way of separating incoming animals from the adoption animals or sick animals from the well animals. And this is incredibly important because, again, this Humane Society saved 98% of its animals last year and provided tremendous veterinary care to them. So we want to make sure that we're able to keep animals healthy that come in and treat the ones that are sick. And in addition to that, the current facility is too small and does not allow us to expand our services to meet the community needs of pet owners and pets. When I say that, the veterinary care program with the Humane Society has been taking off, and it's really almost tripled since the start of COVID. So to give you some perspective, last year the Humane Society sheltered, rehabilitated, and adopted 580 dogs, cats, and pocket pets. But the community veterinary clinic program examined, vaccinated, and treated 1,911 pets, owned pets. And in addition to that, we did 815 spays and neuters for owned pets from our community. And that's just operating 2 days a week. So those programs were only offered on Mondays and Thursdays. 50% of the animals helped by the Windham County Humane Society, roughly, are from Brattleboro. So it has a tremendous impact to just the community of Brattleboro. Currently, due to the limited space, the adoption program and the community veterinary program cannot occur at the same time. The addition alleviates that by allowing us to have a separate entrance and to be able to operate the veterinary clinic side at the same time that we're doing adoption services, instead of having to alternate days. I believe the project is essential to Windham County Humane Society's ability to help our community, and then also improve the conditions of animals that are being cared for there. And it's also incredible. The shelter is really an important resource to the health and welfare of the community. So I'd like to turn it over to Adam, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Great, thank you, Maya.
Can you hang on a second? I can't see Catherine.
I see Catherine.
There's Catherine.
Yes, Catherine.
Okay.
Oh, we lost her.
Great, should I,
Okay. Do you want to just go through the diagram?
Sure. I'm gonna give you a little history first, and then I'll go over to the diagram as well. I guess that's probably easier for everybody to see and the camera to see. So you might recall, Maya, you might have been here. Is that you?
Maya.
Yeah.
I was on the board when we approved.
Yeah, so we were here in 2017, and the original, is this, where do I stand here?
With the camera.
Perfect.
That's good.
When we were here in 2017, we wanted a even larger, an addition, double the size of this, about 4,100 square feet. And the site is incredibly challenging in terms of constraints. So you have the V-Trans right of way here with a 40-foot setback. And then the wetlands is this dashed line here, that's the back side, and then this is the front side of the wetlands through there. And then there's a wetland buffer, a 50-foot wetland buffer. So you can see the existing shelters here, 3,950 square feet. Encroaches a little bit on the buffer built before the wetland regulations were in place. And then the existing, I feel like I should show you the existing conditions plan. It would be revealing, but the existing gravel, I'm gonna bring this over here if you don't mind, just because I think it's valuable to see what the existing conditions.
You want to bring that?
No, I think I can sort of hold it like that. Can you see that? This gives you a little bit better sense. I had a prehensile tail, really good business. The existing gravel drive is like this here, and there was a shed here, and then the gravel came out back. And that line we're following that very same line with the proposed parking. We're taking out some of the gravel here and adding stormwater treatment. So the site, I'm not even sure where to start here. There's so much. I'll go right through my letter to you guys. We're going to propose to move the access. The existing access is here. We're going to move it about 50 feet to the north, widen it to 26 feet, and pick up the grade. Currently, the existing access is kind of substandard. You sort of park at an angle, and it's also hard to see. So
I've been there,
people miss it, and Brian was describing how people go by and turn around his driveway. And that's a real nuisance, and it's not even safe. You really have to peel out.
Yeah.
So we're going to pick that up, have a place for cars that are visible. The sign will be up near the right of way there, and you'll come into the lot. And as Maya described, the shelter side will be on the left or south, and the new addition. This is the 2,055 square foot addition here, and one of the important factors that we need to consider is that in that historic context of the original approval in 2017, they were fundraising. We're falling short of their fundraising goals for that for the full 4,000 square foot addition, and then COVID hit, and so and now going back to construction, they're not in a position to build what they really need. So part of the plan here is to reserve, the buildable area here is really minute, right? You have your front yard setback, and this is actually the rear yard setback right through here, and that wetland buffer. And so we're trying to keep a little bit of space here in case we're in a position to expand again. So we come in, we're asking for a waiver on the paving in the front yard setback. This is existing gravel surface. We're gonna pave that if the budget allows. We need a waiver for that parking, and we need a waiver for this paving in the front yard set. There's a little bit of paving here in the front yard setback. We're also asking for a waiver on breaking up the parking spaces, adding islands. We simply just don't have, we're right at the sort of minimum parking requirements to serve this amount of square footage. So we're asking for a waiver for the islands, for the tree islands that is required by the code.
How many parking spaces are you putting in the back?
There's currently 9 existing, and we're keeping those 9 spaces.
Okay.
And that's going to, so we're asking for a conditional use for the wetlands as well. This project has a permit from the Division of Wetlands.
Yeah.
And in that permit, we've proposed turning this into permeable paving in the back with stormwater treatment. And then you see the buffer, we're restoring some of the buffer back here up to the wetland edge. Over in the King House, it's pretty much abandoned and mostly removed, this concrete pool deck, but that'll go away entirely, and we'll replant the buffer up there, reserving a little bit of yard space in the back. There's a septic system back here. So we're asking for a waiver on the paving, allowing paving in the front yard more than the maximum paving in the front yard setback. We're asking to keep the existing parking in the front yard setback, and we're asking not to have to add tree islands so that we can meet our minimum parking requirements. The last thing we're asking a waiver for is landscaping, and it's not much of a waiver. We're asking for, it was by the calculation in the standards, we were required for 4.8 medium trees. We're proposing 6 actually, 6 large trees, but we're asking for a slight reduction from 48 shrubs to 20 medium shrubs across here, because actually visibility is really important for that very same, we have stormwater treatment here and the visibility to be able to see the signage and the building and the cars. We don't want to entirely screen the operation here.
Do you have a calculation of equivalent plant units from what's required and what's proposed?
We are proposing 21.6 equivalent plant units. I only know that that the requirement is 10 large shrubs and 20 medium shrubs, so I don't know actually, you know what, I do have a calculation. My notes over there.
I have a quick question before he leaves.
Sure.
the board.
Hang on while he's
Yes,
doing
Catherine?
I'm looking at the plans right here on the computer. That whole gray area, the colored one, the gray area, is that all the new stuff that you wanted to put in?
This is all new paving, except the existing paving is, I could dig out the increase in paving from the wetland permit, but essentially the new paving is this section right here.
But isn't there down at the bottom, it's got a little triangle thingy where you have arrows going in and out? That's the new entrance, right?
This is the new entrance, yep.
That's what I meant, yeah.
The old entrance goes away, and we're putting a
Okay.
wider new entrance here. And then,
And the lightly colored, salmon colored are the new, is that the new building?
yep, existing building, and then the darker, with the darker line is the addition.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yep.
So I'm confused
Yeah.
about the number of parking spaces.
Yeah, could you count them? You
You
said
have 9 in
27.
So there's 10 here.
There's 9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
The label says 10, but there are,
It says 9 there.
Yeah,
They're
it's
only
9. You're right, mislabeled.
And there are
And
9
then
in
there's
the
two, and then
back.
there's two, and then there's 2 handicap spaces here. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the back.
That's 18,
and then there's
20.
another
And then there's 6,
over on
and
the
then
side.
there's 6 here. 1, 2, 3,
26.
4, 5, 6.
So 26 total.
26 total.
Well, you don't have more than
10.
10 in a
Contiguous.
line contiguously, so you don't need to worry
Oh,
about
yeah.
breaking them up.
There you go. Thank you.
That's what, when I
We
was
were all
reading this,
like-
I was really confused.
You know, this is from the two applications, so I apologize for that oversight.
Oh, no, that's fine.
So you don't have to ask for that waiver.
You don't have to ask
Yeah.
for a parking
They
waiver.
go.
So I do have a question about parking, and how did you come up with the number of parking
Spaces,
spots that you
yeah.
think you need?
Well, we could use more. This is the minimum, I mean, this is the maximum that we could get out of the
So-
site.
What was your calculation? How'd you come up with that?
The calculation is a geometric limit. I could do the calculation on the square footage of the building
Yeah.
times 200 square feet.
The number of trips,
Right.
and how many people are there at any time?
How many people are working there at one time?
Maya could answer that.
Where did you go?
I do have the,
Hi. Oh, did you want me to go ahead and answer?
yes,
Yeah.
please.
7.
So at any given time, there's no more than about 10 employees. They have shifts coming in the morning, caring for the animals, cleaning, and then there's a little later as a stagger where we have the adoptions and the office staff coming in. And again, the business kind of separates because we're doing adoptions one day and clinic services, but it's still a relatively small number of team employees. The volunteers come and go during the day, so continuously I would say that there's never more than probably between 12 and 13 people, or carloads of people, I should say. The clients are scheduled like a veterinary hospital, so they come every 15 or 20 minutes and leave, so we don't see a huge number that floods the parking lot, so to speak, and then leaves. We can't always control when people come for pet food. But again, it's between the volunteer bodies coming, going through the day, the staff there, and the services being provided. Maximum, I would say, is you're getting around 15 to 18 people on an incredibly busy day when multiple services are happening at the same time. But again, most of our employees also can park, some of our employees can park at the other building if they needed to.
So what do
Some
you
of our
need,
employees don't
why do
even
you
have
need all
cars.
these spaces?
I think it's because of the growth again, because the organization is growing, and there are times when multiple people do show up. I mean, that's 27 spots, and you're looking at a constant of between 10 and 12 employees, and then volunteers, and then some clients coming and going. So it can flood, it can get up there, but it's not. And it's there for future expansion.
They also have events, right? Maya, aren't there adoption events and I'm gonna do a square footage calculation, right?
Yeah, we do have adoption events, we have like microchip events, so those would
I mean,
be
most of the
unique
sites
events.
did that. You don't need all these spots.
I
What
think,
you're
I
saying.
think we need all those spots, yeah. Is it,
Again, we're looking at growing our services and businesses, so what we have today might not be what we have tomorrow. If we can get our vet full-time and operate the clinic more than 2 days a week, we would be really doing a service for the community. We'd have over 4,000 pets just in Brattleboro alone being helped
But
with
they
veterinary
have,
services.
they have appointments, right, so that they wouldn't be seeing more than, I mean, I adopted both of my cats from you guys, and
Mhm.
they go see Dr. Angel at Gateway, and make appointment, and there's never more than one other person in the waiting room. And because you have appointments. So I'm not sure why you need so many parking spaces, to be honest with you. And that would cut down on the paving.
Yeah,
The ratio of 200 square feet per parking space would be,
there's in our regulations, there's some ratios there. And so it depends on what your use of this is, right? And
yeah.
it's like veterinary and kennel would be, I think, the closest.
I think I pulled
And
the,
that's 20 spots.
What, you're saying 20 is the maximum?
20 is the minimum.
Minimum.
So depending on the use, in our minimums, in our current regulations, it would either be 300 square feet per or 600. I would imagine if the intent is to have more regular customer traffic, it would be more like that 300 minimum, but it's more than 200 now. That might have been in place for our previous approval.
right, so at 300 square feet, it was a minimum of 20 parking spaces. And if there's, and then you add the staff and employees,
That's included in
That
the
includes-
calculation.
I suppose we could reduce them, but it seems like the need and the expansion is gonna raise the demand as well.
What,
Yeah.
Catherine?
Yeah, I kind of have to disagree with you, Lil Maya, because I had to take, well, she's not with me anymore, but I had to take my cat there to be euthanation, and it was packed. I mean, there were dogs and cats and a few other types of animals, but no, that parking, I was tough trying getting into the space. So I have to.
Well, the current parking is
maybe
definitely
adoptions are different, maybe adoptions, you have to make an appointment. But I didn't have to make an appointment, I just brought my cat in.
Yeah,
The current parking spots is definitely not appropriate, current parking spots.
how many, I'm having a hard time seeing precisely how many parking spaces that you have currently on the current map.
We have 9 regular, 15, 6 here, so that's 15, and then.
No, that's on the proposed.
Oh, on the existing?
Existing, yes, current. Now,
Well, I think.
I couldn't really make that out.
Yeah, it's not delineated.
Yeah.
Do you know how many parking spaces you currently have?
Well, it's all unmarked.
It's all unmarked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just dirt out there. That's all this gravel. But my question is this your forecasting? You assuming that traffic will pick up because of this new,
yes.
okay, and I guess the second question is, during COVID, traffic was less. You said you had more people. I mean, I'm just trying to get an idea of figure there. You said employees number and what, how many?
Oh, God, I had to count them.
Sorry. I'm just trying to do the math here myself, trying to analytically look
Right.
at that, if it's justifies that.
But there are formulas for it that we have.
Yes.
Right, but that between that formula and the forecasting and predicting that you're gonna have them, you have to have a realistic number that.
The building
Yeah,
is what
It's not
it is, the
guaranteed.
new building.
right, but it's not guaranteed you're gonna have that traffic.
So,
Let's go. 1, 2, 3,
I
4,
mean,
5,
a
6,
lot of
7,
your
8.
issues are coming from having so much parking.
There's not.
Yeah, exactly.
There's 9 employees right now
Mhm.
working in the shelter, and only, and we're looking to expand with the vet, or you can get Dr. Chair, the veterinarian, and 2 more staff bodies for the clinic expansion.
Mhm,
So now you're over 12 employees, and then on average, you think about 3 volunteers,
mhm.
give or take what shifts are coming, and then you have clientele on both sides of services. So again, we're gonna be hiring employees as we grow.
Mhm.
There's currently dimensionally the capacity for 35 parking spaces, so we're gonna be reducing the overall amount of parking.
One quick question. In the building that's over to the right there, you have, what is it?
Six,
Like six
yeah.
spaces there?
6 spaces there, yeah.
And are you including, are some of your employees over in that building as well?
Yes,
So
there's
those,
2
those
employees.
6 spaces would be there for the 6 of your employees that would be in that building?
Those employees I gave you the count for are the employees that work in the shelter and the clinic side.
Okay,
On top of that, we have 3 employees in the administration, and we have 2 volunteers each day. So those that rotate in.
You did not, the numbers you gave us didn't include the building to the right?
Correct. They were talking about the parking spaces for the shelter,
Okay.
employees that work in the shelter.
I understand your frustration. It didn't occur to me that the whole time we were trying to make the minimum amount of parking spaces, and we were feeling like we were losing parking spaces overall and adding square footage and adding services, so I wasn't really prepared to feel like we were, we're still like at the minimum, you know, it's a minimum amount of parking spaces. And I think the standard is, I'm never really sure if that's a maximum or a minimum.
Our maximum is 50% higher than the minimum for any given use type. So I think depending on how they found it, it would either be 30 if it was for 300 square feet, or I guess 20 if it was for 600. But it's, I think unlikely that would be the ratio.
Staff guidance to all applicants is that parking should reflect the actual demand.
Right.
And where it deviates from the ratio, that actual calculation based on demand is the preferred standard.
Yeah.
Generally, they're pretty close, and I think in this case, they are in fact pretty close, and they're giving a pretty clear rationale for why they think that's necessary for the expanded operation.
And with the traffic flow going in and out, okay.
I'd like to, moving on from the number of parking maybe. In your memo, you ask for, where you bring up the point about the 800 square foot of paving in the front setback maximum. And you reference for the residential rural district, section 231.d, you wrote C, but it's D, and it's number 1 there. But that says that the 800 square feet of land within the minimum front yard setback, no more than that may be paved for vehicular access, and you're asking for more. But it says paved. If you don't pave some of it, then you could have more. Unpaved, I believe.
Paving and gravel are equivalent.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, oh, okay.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, okay,
Hard surfaces.
yeah, okay,
That's
Yeah, a gravel road is impervious.
yeah,
According-
okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
For the record on that, I just want to point out, Brian reminded me that I was mistaken on the
In your
specific, in my memo for you all, with regard to that, because of the gravel counting as pavement and impervious. So the front yard would be a existing condition, so it wouldn't be creating a nonconformity. So anything that pertains to that, please feel free to ignore from my memo.
So you also said something about not putting in a bike rack because nobody would bike. Do you have, because what about volunteers and
There's no
staff?
bus route down that way.
Well, there isn't, in some of the other districts, there is a requirement for a bike rack, but
Right.
not in the rural residential district.
No, I know there's
Okay.
no requirement, I'm just saying,
No, there may be justification, yeah.
but why wouldn't you put a bike rack in?
I think, I think Maya would probably go for it. It just seemed like a practical, moving pets and biking out there, but you're right about the staff, and they could certainly bike.
You have staff and you have volunteers.
Yeah.
Do you have indoor bike storage?
We have no storage.
Right. Or, and you're not anticipating having indoor bike storage?
It hadn't been, again, this is kind of going back to the original application, and Annie Guyon had not encountered the need for a bike rack, so we left it off. I think, Maya, correct me if I'm wrong, we can add a bike rack if if that's,
That would be helpful.
If that's gonna be helpful, we can definitely add a bike rack.
Yeah,
You know, for-
I would add a bike rack.
That might increase more volunteer.
And decrease your need for parking.
There lies the
Yes.
rub.
We will encourage it. I think with the road work there, it might feel safer to have it widened and flat. My employee tried to bike from Newfane and she felt very scared. So,
At the moment, yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't bike from
At the
Newfane
moment.
today.
Wouldn't recommend that now.
my.
But I think in the future, on beautiful days, it'll be great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Another point. Mr. Hubbard, for the parking in the back of the main site, closest to the wetland there, those 9 spaces or so that are, you're electing to put pervious pavers.
Yeah.
There's pavement a little south of that, that's still within the buffer, and you haven't elected to make that pervious. It's non-parking spaces, it's just, right there, left to right. Shouldn't that be, don't we think that should be pervious as well?
Well, there's
Where are we?
It's the remainder of the pavement that's
Yeah,
still
that-
in the
Behind
buffer
the new
zone.
building.
This was worked out with Rebecca Chalmers in that the maintenance of this and the accessibility of this, there's an advantage to having it as pavement or a pervious surface, impervious surface. And in terms of snow clearing and just shoveling and stuff, the parking takes an extra level of care. So we had, and we were converting existing impervious surface to permeable paving here, and we met the requirements of the wetlands permit with that.
Which reminds me, where are you gonna put the snow?
Oh, you took it right out of my mouth.
The snow is gonna go out in this, around this perimeter here and in the lawn here.
And you said you're gonna have a stormwater catchment over in the back.
Yep,
Is
it's gonna
that,
drain to there,
is
yeah.
that a rain garden
That's
or?
that's a rain garden, yeah.
Maya,
Yeah,
no, I'm sorry, this Maya, sorry. Two Mayas. So, I guess, I don't know if this is, verbatim or law or whatever, but energy charging stations for like e-bikes, is that something?
they're gonna put a charging station, a
There will
conduit
be,
for a
okay.
charging station.
Where's the conduit come out?
We'll bring it out of we'll probably, there's a utility pole here, and we're gonna put outlet and the capacity for a charging station there. It's on the utility plan.
I was in there, I don't know if Kathy Bowles is still there. Who's doing dog catching now, I guess? I mean, as far as where they're gonna be parking.
The town is in process of hiring someone.
Okay, I just didn't know if they do it down, they had somebody voluntary. Okay.
Would you like to go through the conditional use criteria? Compatibility with the surrounding area. We've talked about vehicular access and
Yeah.
circulation. I
Yeah.
have the architectural plans, as you do too. I'll show you the,
I don't know, unless somebody has questions.
Oh, we can't see Catherine, I don't know if she had a question.
Catherine? We can't see Catherine.
Is she there?
No, I have nothing else to say.
Oh, is
Okay,
there you go. We didn't forget you.
renewable energy, we're anticipated to interfere with access to renewable energy. Exterior lighting, we've reduced the amount of exterior lighting, we're gonna have one pole-mounted fixture here, and the rest will be building-mounted, full cutoff fixtures. Signage, we're gonna have a sign just outside the right-of-way there. Downcast lights, we're gonna add another sign at the entrance to the King House, hopefully to help with the drive-by of cars and turning around. It's a real problem. We don't expect adverse effect on noise, odor, glare, waste storage.
Smell?
The dumpsters are gonna be moved currently out of the buffer here and onto the impervious surface here, or permeable surface here. This part is getting, there's a small section that's getting restored to.
So nothing like animal waste or anything or whatever that's gonna be corded out, I guess, properly disposed, so there's any,
The animal waste goes through the septic system.
okay.
We're adding a hair trap. That's current discussion. I don't think there's any adverse impact on the municipal plan and laws. The proposed land development is in conformance with existing laws and codes. I think the wetland, I can go through the conditional use and the wetland buffer. But we've basically made every effort we can to reduce the footprint and develop it responsibly with buffer plantings, stormwater treatment, permeable paving, as compact as we can. Again, we really, I apologize for not looking at it through the lens of minimizing parking. We had reduced the amount of overall parking and we're expanding our footprint, so we're feeling like parking was really, I hadn't even thought of it in terms of that calculation. Are there any other questions about either the conditional use or the conditional use of the wetland buffer?
Efficiency Vermont has been doing a targeted campaign in Brattleboro, and they've been looking to partner with nonprofits to do energy improvements. Have you folks contacted them and seen if they can help with some of the ventilation, heating, heat recovery, and other aspects of your project?
That's a good question. I was in a meeting with the mechanical engineer and the architect, and I know they were discussing Efficiency Vermont and the units that we're using, but I think I was at the end of the meeting and I was moving on from off the site stuff, so I'll bring it up with Chip.
Okay.
Chip Greenberg is the architect.
They're also offering financing for larger projects, so
Good idea.
it's a great resource.
Good tip, good tip.
Did you talk about if the slightly regraded entrance pavement is, which way that slopes? Does it slope into the property or drain?
Yes, it slopes into the property. The current one slopes quite steeply,
Yeah.
and we're building up the grade.
But it'll still slope into
It'll
the
still
site.
slope, yeah, that's a requirement, and the natural grade there.
And building up the grade there is something that I believe the state's gonna require anyways, isn't it?
Yeah, the old entrance, the old access was substandard, and we
Yes.
built, and we designed it to current standards.
And was a calculation done about lot coverage percentage?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I have my calculation, I think we're at 28%. I can probably find it in here.
This
was that
okay.
provided to us, and did you guys see that, or?
It is 28%, and they have it on the Form D.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if I can ask, was that considering both parcels or was that referring to one lot?
I believe it was just the main parcel. I don't think we did I don't think I did the calculation for the king parcel.
sure.
look at that.
What's Form D, Brian?
Form D one,
It's a checklist for site plans.
That's
It's Steve's memo?
No.
Oh.
No,
It's
it's,
major.
It's in the
This one?
application, it's after the site plan drawings in the scout.
I can
No,
pull that
it's
up
a-
if it's interest.
Oh, I was just looking at it.
Yeah, it's right here.
This one. It's
Site
not
plan
that,
drawings.
it's submitted by the,
The document that has 23 pages, which page is it?
It is starting at 16.
It's immediately after the site plans.
Oh,
it looks like this.
I see it.
It looks like this.
Oh,
You-
I see it. Thank you. 28%. Oh, there it is.
What? Yeah, I'm going to.
Form D.
Does anybody on the board have any additional questions?
I was just, one last question about the sidewalks, where will they be? I know you had here for side pedestrian access circulation.
Yeah, we didn't provide sidewalks on the public right of way or to the public right of way because there's,
I think he means around the building.
oh, around the building?
Yes.
Yeah, these are the sidewalks here, and then there's just a small pad there. I think currently you just walk across gravel to the facility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak about, okay. Stan,
Stan?
that's your mic, that's your
Right here,
TV
okay.
mic.
Brian Young, and at 962 West River Road. So I'm upstream, up the road from the King property, as it's called. So my main concern is, everything I've heard here is great, and I think the parking spaces are definitely needed with the traffic. And that's mainly why I'm here, is because of the traffic. And as was mentioned, people missing, the visibility and the driveway access is not adequate. So, and when people are coming up Route 30 at 50 miles an hour, let me back up a little. When I tell people coming to my house, I use the Humane Society. I say, when you see the Humane Society, put on your directionals, otherwise you're gonna drive by my house. And it still happens. So, a wider driveway there and proposed wider driveway on the King property. So maybe if they miss the Humane Society building and the office, they can say, oh, there's another sign. 2 signs would be great. Because then they see the first sign and there it is, and then they're gonna see the second sign. They can turn around in that driveway and not my driveway or the other neighbor's driveway who's not here, who I'm speaking for. I've been here, this is, I think you were the only original one.
Yep.
And I don't know, were you here in 2015? When this was originally, that's how long this has been going on. And another thing, they've been a great neighbor. When it was first proposed, I was like freaked out. Because they were gonna put in dog pools and
Yes, I remember
fountains
that.
and.
I was here.
And I'm there, wait a minute. And this King property has been a great buffer, and them turning it into an office makes all the, so my main concern is what's gonna happen on that property, and maybe Maya can shed a little light on that. And again, I wanna thank Maya. In the past year, she's hired a new landscaper person to take care of the yard, which has been great, because that's what I look at. I look at, not so much, I'm looking at.
The backyard here, yeah.
Right, I'm looking at the King property, not so much the Humane Society itself. And she's really cleaned up the yard. The guy comes like twice a week, mows it, moving, some trees came down in the storm, he's already come up, so that's been great. And I wanna thank her for that. So my concern is, keeping that property as it is, as a buffer to whatever goes on over there. And somehow, making it better access, or better signage, bigger driveways, whatever's necessary to eliminate. And when Annie was there, I brought up the point, in the state of Vermont, how they have this state, the little sign, we don't allow billboards in this state, but the little, but I guess they won't allow it because they're not off the main road. So it just, somehow the customers, what do they call need to be aware that where the Humane Society is, so they don't miss it and turn around in my driveway. But otherwise, they've been a great neighbor. I really like what's been going on. They use it for an office, and it's really nice.
No, I was on the board when the whole thing about wasn't there gonna be a dog swimming pool or
Swimming pools
something like that over there? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little over the top, but that was, so, yeah, the reason I'm here is they've been a great neighbor, and I'm hoping that the property where the office is continues to be a property for the office, because it makes for a great, a buffer for
Well,
what's.
if they do anything on that property, they'll have to come back, so.
Right, and the other thing that, as we were talking about wetlands, and there is a brook, now, that included, because it wasn't Irene, I forgot what storm, it was one of those storms after Irene. Both properties got totally wiped out, my property got totally wiped out, and Annie hired someone to come in, and they actually dredged that brook and built it back up. There was talk of monitoring that and maybe doing it every 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. We're really not, I mean, that was a sort of, I remember when that happened, and technically, we're not supposed to mess with that brook, but it had jumped its bank and spilled all the sediment out into the backyards of those two properties.
Of my yard and the King property.
The stream, this is a wetland associated with a stream, so there's a stream channel that runs right through the middle here. And it had gotten diverted out to Mr. Young's property, and it was repaired.
Right.
And maintenance is tricky, the Wetlands Division really doesn't want us.
But they let a one-time deal there, I don't know.
I think,
I
don't even think it was, I think it was just like a crisis situation.
Okay.
I think it was.
Well, I'm happy to address Mr. Young's question regarding the King House, if there's a moment.
Sure.
Yeah? So we are keeping the King House, you can't tell if I'm talking. We are keeping the King House as an office in the design. And Adam can go through one little change to it on the outside, but it's gonna be maintained right now, and it's kind of a house, and since what's inside of it, so if it were to be converted back, it could. But right now, what I'm looking to do is finish the project, the expansion project and the renovation of the shelter first. And if there's some funds left over, we'll be pricing out, painting the King House, updating the yard, just again, landscaping, nothing that we require any permitting, just make it pretty. As well as addressing on the inside some renovation that just deals with the lead paint and the asbestos. But the floor plan will stay the same, and everything else, we just wanna make it kind of cohesive as far as the shelter are looking. And then I think right now, just looking at having a handicap accessibility for the front, because some of our volunteers have mobility challenges. So we just wanna make sure that we have access in the front for their wheelchairs or walkers.
So
I hope that
eventually it may be eliminated as an office and turned into a house rental, because that's what originally was.
That's not what I said, I just said that the organization wants to retain flexibility in the unit. I don't see us, because right now I wouldn't have an office and two of my people would have to sit in the parking lot to do our work. But, again, we're not looking to make it into a dog park, we're not doing anything, all the services have been located into the one property.
Right, it's been a great neighbor.
Yeah, the floor plan's staying the same, it's just looking at making it, more friendly to live in, with certain things like lead paint and asbestos we'd like to take care of, for those of us who work in it.
All right.
Are there any other questions or
Oh,
comments?
wow, you got it. How silly.
Mine is supposed to say.
Thanks, Ryan.
Has B-Trend reviewed this and approved the access?
We've resubmitted the application to them, and they've approved it once, we expect they'll approve it again.
Okay. Great, I just asked the board if I could have the authority to make minor modifications to the site plan to accommodate any V-Trans conditions.
Just one more question on the driveway on the King property. Was that gonna be expanded and regraded also? Because that's not the easiest.
That wasn't intended, but I think it's a valid concern if we have, it was anticipated that it would be employees and volunteers who are familiar with it. If it's the public doing turnarounds, I would support widening it a couple feet and maybe making it a little more visible.
The grade is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the construction of Route 30's gonna do to migrate or what they're doing there. They're going all the way down right now.
Can you stand up
Oh,
when you're speaking? Thank you.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Make it difficult for a poor camera person.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the grade there is similar to the main building. It's not real easy to get in and out of, whereas my grade is pretty flat.
Yeah.
And mine's on blacktop too.
If the board would oblige us widening that to 14 feet, we would happily do that. I don't know how you do.
If you decide you wanna do that, we can make it an administrative approval.
We'll come back afterwards.
No, just, Brian can approve.
Yeah, so procedurally, it's a different property and it wasn't warned, but
Yeah,
that would be minor site plan change, so it's something
Yeah.
that could be administratively reviewed.
that's what I think.
We'll pick that up.
Yep,
in that-
in a separate application.
Great.
And V-Trans would have to approve it also. Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Well, I was just gonna add one last thing. So when you mentioned the signage, I've had issues not, zooming past it. I had to go to Urban, grab a coffee and come back, not knowing it was that. Is that something they can add for people who go that way? When you make that turn, if you don't get down in there, you have to go back up and come back if you don't know it's there, verbatim for people in town or whatever. So how does that work?
the sign is pretty visible right now. I mean,
If you're zooming or whatever, people driving up that way, it's not really easy to
people are
see.
speeding.
Yeah.
Excuse me, what, right?
Yeah.
But come up to my house on a adoption day and it's
Yeah.
five to seven cars on the weekends will be turning around in my driveway.
Yeah.
Or the,
Yeah, I don't know what can be done about the
Right.
signage.
Oh, that's why I asked Meyer, Brian, what would be a recommendation?
But I thought Adam said they were moving the sign in to make it more visible.
That further out?
He did say that.
It is a little further out,
I just didn't know where it was putting it.
the existing sign is right here,
Yep,
and we're moving it, maybe 5 feet closer, not even, a few feet closer to the
So visible to the turn.
turn. But perhaps, I can't, I'm not looking at the grading plan, it might be higher. I'm not, we're kind of limited on what we can do about making the sign more visible. We'd happily reduce the landscaping in the front yard, but that's, I think, a different topic.
Yes,
right.
it's a cute sign.
What's that?
It's a cute
Yeah,
sign.
it is.
It's a cute sign.
We're gonna,
okay, so what do we need for conditions?
We need the bike rack. This administrative approval for the signage.
Mhm.
Talk to Efficiency Vermont. Landscaping, administrative approval on the landscaping. And the V-Tran, any changes the V-Tran
Can be
requires.
administered.
I'd like to propose adding something. I heard in my question to the part of the pavement that is proposed to remain impervious but within the wetland buffer. I think what I heard summed up is that the impervious pavement is more convenient to maintain than the impervious. Basically, you said more than that, but that's what I heard, and you can rebut or answer in a second, but
Which pavement are you talking about, in the back?
in the back, still in the buffer, but not pervious, not
Well,
permeable.
there's even pavement in the front that's in the buffer.
No, the buffer's that dashed line there.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
know.
oh, you're,
It
oh,
loops around in
well, there we
front
go,
as
there
well.
too then, thanks for pointing that out. I hear that it's, and maybe it's, I'm remembering less than you said, but that it's inconvenient, but that's the trade-off with protecting the wetlands and with the added rules of, the rules in the buffer. So I would push for that, but I'd like,
Removal, you're talking about just that one little piece?
no, any pavement that's in the wetland buffer that is not permeable, I think should be permeable slash, AKA pervious.
Well,
Because the review criteria is saying that disturbance and development should be minimized to the greatest extent possible. Here's a way of still having your pavement, having your parking, but doing something that acknowledges the wetland, that accommodates it somewhat.
I think from the wetland division point of view, their perspective was that there's existing impervious surface in that whole area.
The
And
gravel,
The gravel is all impervious.
because it's so compacted or something.
That's just how it's classified.
No, but gravel is always considered,
gravel roadways are
Yeah,
considered
it's
impervious
impervious.
soils. Yeah.
yeah.
And so
driveways.
the view of the wetlands division is that it's currently all existing impervious surface, and providing the parking as permeable was a trade-off that they were happy with. The functionality of deliveries in the back and trucks coming back there, the permeable paving it will function, but it's a different level of functionality than paving on gravel.
Brian?
Adam, don't we have a utility pole right there too that requires access?
Yeah, that could be permeable, but it's and that's infrequent. It's really like the main thoroughfare, where you're driving back and forth,
Yeah.
where your parking was. We had agreed with Rebecca Chalmers that could be a good transfer to permeable paving.
Do you have deliveries going around to the back of the new building?
Yeah, there's a Sally, what's called a Sally port, where you take injured animals and stuff. Yeah. And
So there'll be trucks going back there?
and a propane truck and
Okay.
I mean, not as much because we're moving the dumpster, but there's less truck traffic than the original. But the other is like just a functional clearing snow is just. They're gonna have to back drag all that snow out of there, and permeable paving and plowing don't go well together. It's a really costly, difficult thing. So in this situation, we worked out again with Rebecca Chalmers that you could pull the snow off do your best not to disturb the permeable paving, pull it onto the pavement or gravel, and then back drag it out. So that was the logic. Brian was going to say something.
Oh, we've looked into stormwater and different ways to treat it, and low impact design and green design. Pervious pavers work really well in parking bays, but higher traffic areas, they tend to subside.
Yeah.
Gray paving just works better.
If you look at the co-op, the entrance to the co-op is those permeable pavers, and they've had to pick them up and relay them at least once
Replace them.
since they were put.
I think they put all new ones in.
They did, and it's subsiding again, even though they had a company that specialized in it do the replacement project. So
Yeah,
it's just a much more challenging environment, and they do better in low traffic areas like parking bays.
Okay.
Even then, it's a challenge. It really is.
Okay.
Worth a shot.
All right, so I'm gonna get Nora to read the conditions again, so she
Okay.
wrote them down.
Yeah, so conditions are administrative approval on the signage and the moving of the signage. You're gonna add a bike rack. you're going to talk to Efficiency Vermont, which I think you probably want to do anyway. We are gonna give Brian administrative approval on the landscape, and any changes that V-Tran might require from you.
Would want to get administrative.
Administrative, right.
as well.
Right. And you will submit a second application for the widening of the second driveway.
Yeah, to Brian.
Brian,
Right.
and he can approve that administratively.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to approve 2022, 2023-22, too many twos,
I motion,
with the conditions that Nora
Nora.
just read.
Nora just read.
Right.
I move.
Okay, Catherine moved. Is there a second?
Gary?
Oh, yeah, second, I thought I already agreed.
No.
Okay, don't remove that.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will move to a vote. Catherine?
Aye.
Nora?
Aye.
Michael?
Yes,
Gary?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
And I will vote aye. So it's, your project is approved, 6-0, with the conditions that we just outlined. And they'll be in the written decision.
Sure, thank you very much. Any effort?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much for your support.
Any effort to write a decision would help, and in a timely manner would help the whole project as a whole. We're behind schedule, and we'd like to get moving as soon as possible. So we understand you're busy, but we appreciate any effort.
We'll try to do it next week.
Oh,
I'll have to see.
that would be outstanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
There's somebody.
Probably just a week after next time.
That would be fine. That's the 45 days is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, so
Fantastic. It's been real Uber.
we will move to 2023-21. And
So.
Everyone that didn't show up?
He's here now.
he's here. Are you here to present?
Be sworn in.
Nope, he's not sworn.
I know, but are you, I wouldn't, goodness. You're gonna talk about trying.
Yes, I'm here to explain the project and answer questions and apologize for my tardiness.
Okay. I have to swear you in. Let me find my language here. I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in the case under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do, yes.
Okay. And can you identify yourself for the record?
My name is Daniel Riddlehoover. I work for M&S Development in Brattleboro, and I am a hired development consultant working on behalf of the Tri-Park Cooperative Housing Corporation.
Okay. Can you talk to us about your project?
Again, so before you guys is a conditional use permit for the replacement of the wastewater system at Glen Park, located in West Brattleboro. Tri-Park owns 3 mobile home communities within Brattleboro. This is the smallest of the 3. It's located in the floodplain along the Whetstone Brook.
Yep.
Was the site of previous Irene and flood damage, etc. So it certainly has a watery history. The park was originally built in the 1960s and is home to residents who are 55 and older as one of the age requirements of residency for that particular park. This park won, and Tri Park along with Black Mountain Park won a planning grant through support of the town and a community development block grant planning grant, which they then used to hire Otter Creek Engineering of Rutland, Vermont, to design a replacement system. Otter Creek did that work. They did a conceptual design with input from the town of Brattleboro Public Works Department to ensure that whatever we were designing satisfies their requirements as well. The specific lines that are being replaced serve all of the homes, and it's just the wastewater. There's an existing line that comes in from a property located on Western Avenue that gravity feeds through Glen Park, collects from all of the homes along Glen Park, and then continues gravity fed along the line that picks up the rest of the homes on Glen Street. So Glen Park and Tri Park privately own and operate this stretch, although it does tie together two other stretches of wastewater line. What we're proposing is the direct replacement, the one-for-one replacement of 55-plus-year-old failing infrastructure. The lines that exist today run directly underneath the middle of the row, the multiple rows of homes. And so it's very difficult to service and has been one of the reasons that Tri Park hasn't been able to take this on. They won a construction grant from the Agency of Natural Resources to do this work. That grant's been awarded, and we are now have completed our state wastewater permitting and are looking for this local permit before going out for bidding on this project to replace all of the wastewater lines.
Are there any questions?
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, yes.
Right?
I'm sorry?
So the application was submitted to the Rivers Program at the state to review the flood hazard regulations, and they've made no comments, which is basically an endorsement.
Anybody?
I'm not an engineer or knowledgeable in this stuff at all, so you could pretty much say anything, but I'll ask it anyway. Is this replacement of, will the new pipes and wastewater system be resilient to scour and other, effects of floodwaters?
I would hope significantly more so than what's in the ground today. What's currently in the ground is a material that's called Orangeburg pipe, colloquially called Orangeburg pipe. It's essentially a tar impregnated paper fiber that was all the rage post World War II. They said it was going to be a forever material, and about 40 years later, it started to fail. Tri Park has continued to have instances of this system failing, and one of its particular challenges is that it's not readily repairable. So in that way, as the pipe turns soft, you can't just cut out a section and put a new piece in. So it's being replaced largely with 8-inch Schedule 40 PVC and concrete manhole structures, the same specifications that the town installs.
And you're gonna be putting in all the mains that are gonna be going in right under the pavement?
That's correct. They currently run underneath the bellies of the homes, and we're gonna relocate the lines to be more than 10 feet away from their water service lines, and that's gonna be right at the edge of the existing pavement of the driveways.
Wastewater was probably happy with that.
How long will this
Yeah.
take?
Well, we're looking to get out to bid in the next couple of weeks, and I'm hoping that it takes as little time as possible. There will be no service interruption, the service interruption to the individual homes will be a matter of like a single-digit number of hours. Because of where the new lines are being installed, we'll be able to install all the service lines and pressure test them and ensure that they work before making final connections to homes' existing plumbings, and that'll be able to go one by one from the top of the line down. I think this is gonna be an order of 2 or 3 weeks worth of work.
Great.
We're doing the same project at Black Mountain Park as well, just not in the floodplain.
No,
Michael?
I was looking at some of the drawings and the printing was very small. I was having a hard time reading it, but how deep are you burying these things? When I looked at your detail, it was, it didn't really have a dimension on that as far as, but I did notice that you were adding some insulation on top of the pipes.
Yeah, so the depth, I'm not certain to speak to the depth. I'm also not the engineer. But the depth is driven by the fact that it ties into both existing service lines, both above and below Glen Park. So there's that property on Western Avenue that is fed by is drained by the same line. And so that's sort of the shallowest depth, is to tie into that piece of the service line. And then to tie into the town's piece at the bottom, that's the bottom depth. So we're a bit constrained in the pitch of the system.
It looks like at the shallowest, it's 4 feet below grade.
Okay. And is part of this whole job gonna go back and basically repave over the whole thing when you're done?
There is, I think, 700 or 800 yards of repair paving that has to happen, yes.
Because
Which is
where
a
you're running the
single digit.
lines is down the center of an existing road. I mean,
It's down the edges of the road, yes.
okay,
It's not quite down the middle, so that we can retain traffic flow while the project
Okay.
happens.
No, I mean,
But
I
it is
was-
on the margins of the road.
okay.
With this sort of application, can we be considering landscaping?
Not really. Why would we?
Well, there's just parts, between the buildings and the pavement and the, in the floodway and between the stream that just have, pretty much no plantings between them. And just a little bit of bare dirt, at least on Google Maps, just right between the pavement and the whetstone brook.
They actually have gardens there.
Oh,
Yeah.
now they do?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
And just a comment, a number of years back, you folks approved the Melrose Terrace floodplain restoration. That's actually dropped most of Glen Park out of the special flood hazard area.
Oh.
Yeah.
And when the letter of map revision is filed, that will actually become official, and this project wouldn't have required your approval.
Cool.
Wow.
The flooding on December 24th would have usually required that Glen Park be evacuated. But again, the waters rose on Melrose Terrace and left it high and dry, so it worked.
Great.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
No hands up or anything?
Catherine, do you have any other questions?
No.
Is there a motion to approve 2023-21 Tri-Park Residential Neighborhood District, the request for flood hazard conditional use approval?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that motion.
It's Michael and Gary. Is there any further discussion?
Get rid of that orange bird.
With pleasure.
Yeah.
The residents are ready for it. There have been numerous instances of pipe failures that have, no one enjoys.
Yeah.
Oh, no, and it's just impossible to repair. It just falls apart when you touch it.
It's like a kind of paper mache.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
It's-
Crumbles.
There was,
Forever material,
Yeah.
no.
Oh, dealt with it before, it's
yeah.
horrendous.
So, Catherine,
Aye.
Nora,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye?
Gary,
Aye?
Tom,
Aye.
and I will vote aye. So the tri-park application is approved by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Yep.
Does anyone have any other business to,
I'll add out of turn that I was the former facilities manager who replaced the pervious pavers at the Brattleboro Food Co-op.
oh,
And I quite enjoyed listening to your conversation. I have many thoughts.
You're our hero.
yeah, thank you. It was a good idea, but
Yeah.
it's not working too well.
It looks nice.
It does look nice.
It's an expensive challenge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I'll never believe anybody who says, this is a forever material. It's like,
No
no,
such thing.
I'll never believe it.
Except for plastic.
Well, it's good for still.
But it doesn't go away.
And-
It doesn't maintain its integrity.
And
So, if there's no other business, next month we should have one new member and, a new alternate, another alternate. So that will be exciting, at least for a month.
Mhm.
No, actually 2 months,
Yes.
May and June.
May and June.
So,
we don't have a meeting in May?
We do.
no.
No, we do.
I said May and
Oh,
June.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We will have
Oh, okay.
a new member and, a new alternate.
Oh, okay.
So we will have a full board, and we're still looking for one alternate,
How many alternates we have? 3?
3. So, is there a motion to, do you have something? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Bye, guys.
We are adjourned.